All right, everyone, please welcome onto the podcast today Theresa Ancick. She is the data governance strategist and consultant for Accura Business Services LLC. I'm very excited to have her on the podcast today. We're going to be discussing a framework for modern data governance as a part of, both the live seminar Data Governance Week we have coming up, as well as her participation in TDWI Orlando later this year. But before we jump into all of the good questions, Teresa, how are you today? Thank you for joining. And if you don't mind maybe sharing a brief background about yourself, that would be great.
Absolutely. Hi, Andrew, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I started back in 1996 with Accura Business Services. I've been working in data pipelines, data warehousing, data visualizations, BI teams, and the such for my entire career. And then when data governance started to emerge, I was like, holy moly, this is the answer to everything. And so I latched onto data governance and have never looked back. And since then, I have worked with small, medium, and Fortune 500 companies. I've worked with tiny companies and global organizations that have 35 ERPs around the world and federated, centralized, you name it. So I've been able to see behind the curtain
Mm.
in a lot of different industry verticals, a lot of different business models, for profit, not for profit, government agencies. And so over the years, I've been able to develop a lot of the people, process,
Mm.
and procedures that stand up a long living data governance program.
Well, that's excellent. And obviously, a framework for modern data governance is right up your alley. So, this is why we have you on today. I'm excited to
Oh,
learn a
thanks.
little bit about what you have for us here. So, let me start off with this first question. I guess it's maybe we'll start off with a statement first because the question will follow. But, at TDWI, we noticed that data governance is critical for many organizations today. I don't think there's any organizations that deal with data that don't realize that at this point. Hopefully, maybe I'm wrong. But
Couple.
from yeah, from your experience, what are some of the key challenges organizations face when implementing a data governance framework? And maybe can you tell us about avoiding some common pitfalls?
Yes, I specialize in the avoiding common pitfalls area because I've gotten called in at the 11th hour many times now, and I was like, save my program. And I've been able to get in and hit the ground running and find out what happened
Hmm.
and subsequently be able to help my customers avoid that from happening to them. Some of the common pitfalls are the executive buy-in and leadership area. They know they need data governance, but they're oftentimes at the executive level, they haven't level set what they believe it to be. Like one person will think that data governance is all about AI. The next person, it's IT governance versus data governance versus a different flavor of governance. And so one of the things that I like to work with is the executive team and have them understand what does it mean for data as an asset? Why are people turning to data governance? In some cases, the auditors are asking for it. And so we just want to check the box so that the auditors get what they want. But the truth is, there's so much value both individually, organizationally, and speed to market, agility wise for your organization, that everyone should be wanting to do data governance in their organization. It really does have a great deal of value beyond checking a box for an auditor. So that's one of the areas. Another area that I think is a challenge is staffing and capacity. I see a lot of companies, they hire one person. We know we need data governance. We're not sure what it is. We're going to hire a position and see what happens,
Hmm.
right? And then, in worst case scenario, this poor person, they're like, oh, hey, this is broken over here. Come govern it. And then the next thing that breaks, hey, it's broken over here too. Come govern it. And that's how they go about setting up data governance, right?
Right.
And so, oh, that is a challenge. That's like the worst case scenario.
Hmm.
I know that I have my work cut out for me, but one of the things that I'm really proud of is that even if it's a grassroots organization, I can take them from where they're at into a fully functional data governance. So if you have pockets of data governance everywhere, I can pull those pockets together into a centralized, functional, long-standing data governance team.
Well, that's
The third one that I want to point out, sorry,
no,
Fern,
no
the
worries.
third one I want to point out is there's often three enemies of data governance that I see, and it's focus, chaos, and lack of a repeatable process, which is the people, process, and procedures.
Mm,
Those are the three pillars that I see when I get called in. It's like, what is going on? Either the team doesn't have any focus, they'll completely shift gears one in the middle of a meeting, and it takes 2 weeks to get back on track again. There's chaos because we didn't do the right underpinnings and procedures. We're calling each other up and saying, hey, can you add this to the business glossary? What does this mean? I need this. And
mm,
it's all based on phone calls. So we don't have metrics and we have a lot of chaos. And so that's where the people and process that oftentimes gets overlooked during
hmm
that. And then finally, the ability to clearly define your roles. What are your data stewards going to do? What are your data custodians going to do? And every organization and every industry vertical usually has a slightly different flavor of how that's going to work for them, and they should.
mm,
So if you're reading a book that says data stewards do all this and you're going to copy and paste that into your organization, there's going to be challenges. So
right.
what I look for is clearly defining those roles and then having a repeatable onboarding process into those roles because you're going to lose your capacity really quick if we haven't automated that onboarding. So
Mm.
those are the primary challenges that I help at the top. I have reams of other challenges that come up, but they're more nuanced.
Sure. Sure. And yeah, I think, you're so spot on with how different each organization is
Oh,
size and what they're trying to accomplish. So there is no cookie cutter, one size fits all kind of a deal here for data governance, it
right.
seems, right?
Right, they
Um,
can't be. Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of the larger organizations are struggling because they want to be able to come in like accounting. Super easy. I did that for 10 years. You've got your principles of accounting, you've got your generally acceptable practices that you go by. It's very clear. You've got your parameters of programming. You can do accounting. You're not teaching accounting while you're in there either. Most people know the difference. It's different in data governance because a lot of times they're bought a tool and they think that the tool is also going to deliver on the
mm,
people in the process, and that's not necessarily the case.
mhm.
So I think it's really important to have that additional guidance of how to set up what you need in order to operate the tool effectively.
Yeah. Well, and I think you espoused so many good pieces of information there. And, I would imagine also, I mean, when I read the abstract of, this coursework that you're going to be going through, there's a lot of emphasis on practical application of the data
Oh,
governance
yeah.
principles, right? So
Yeah.
can you share maybe some other examples with us about how one of those tools or templates, provided can be used to address those data governance challenges in those
Yeah.
organizations?
I'm really excited, particularly about the driving engagement in your organization course that I'm doing. It's a
Hmm
4-hour course. I have so many slides. I get carried away because I'm so passionate about this. But it's really about things that you can do and apply immediately when you return to the office. How you can actually drive traffic into your program, embed that change control into your process. Who do you need to talk to? Who do you need to link with? What do you need to bring with you? How to sell the value at every level. You hear a lot about selling the value of individually, organizationally, functionally, the value of data governance. So you will sometimes be met with someone who is vitriol when it comes to data governance because it is going to stop the progress. I'm going to give you tools on how to manage that conversation and make them one of your biggest advocates. I've seen it happen.
hmm
And so there's a lot of that, and then tips and tricks to organize things so that they're being done consistently. A small example is just how people are handling their acronyms. If you've got a somewhat federated approach and your domains are doing things differently, you're going to have one domain and they put acronyms in parentheses after the term. The next domain put acronyms in a custom field, and the next one embedded them in the descriptions, right? And then somebody up at the top is going to approach you with a very reasonable request. Can you give me an enterprise-wide acronym library? It would really help onboarding new people to
Hmm.
understand our language. And they go, oh, and they look in the tool and how are we going to pull all these acronyms out? We did not think about this ahead of time. That is just one small thing that I see pretty regularly that I'm going to help you to avoid and offer some different suggestions on making sure that when you do have that type of environment, you have that consistency throughout your tooling.
No, that's very good. And oftentimes we hear about, whether it be acronyms or even just simple definitions, it's very complicated and without that repeatable process as well. I mean, makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense to organize that way. Well, let me ask one more question here on what you just kind of touched on about. It's like the people that don't necessarily want to slow down or stop what they're doing to
Hmm.
implement these sort of data governance, frameworks or whatever it is
Right.
that you might be discussing with
Right.
your organization. How you said there's tips and tricks to overcome that. Can you maybe delve a little deeper into
Yeah.
what one or two of those might be for us?
Sure. First off, you can take an approach where you're trying to make the least amount of disruption for people. Tell me what you're currently doing. It means I have to listen more.
Hmm.
But by listening, I am able to identify artifacts. And instead of people trying to add that data, I'm going to upload that automatically. I'm going to go back to my acronym library. I'm going to send out an email that says anybody out there in the entire organization that has a list of acronyms that they have in their drawer, I don't care if it's in a napkin, email that list to me. And I have been able to have 250 acronyms in the first week of doing data governance. And we're like, all right, we've got our whole centralized way we're going to approach this over here. Anybody
Hmm.
can push this button and add to that library, right? So we have the ability to go after quick wins while we're establishing the underpinnings that we need to have and take
Hmm.
the time to do those underpinnings and be able to leverage what we already are doing and pivot it into a data governance tool, which means we're not going to ask people to retype. We're going to pivot and upload it over here. Show me your change process of what you're doing when you move a new report onto your production server. I'm going to look for how I can fit into that existing change process and then just drive it into the data governance central tool so that it's transparent, searchable, auditable, and available for
Hmm.
anybody else that wants to look at it or needs it.
No, that's great. And, I think something that has come across in some previous conversations I've had about data governance and implementing, new programs, frameworks, what have you, kind of
Mhm.
goes back to what you were mentioning in the first question about like executive buy-in and executive organization leadership. I'm
Mm.
wondering if, in your experience, if you've noticed that, the spotlight on AI and what people think they can do with it moving forward and new tools, if
Yeah.
that helps them look backwards and say, actually, maybe we do need more buy-in on the data governance side. Is that something that you're seeing, with leadership? Because I know so many of the
Oh, yeah.
C-suite seem to want to push forward through AI, but they can't necessarily do that if, everything behind is not working so well.
Right. You know, and a lot of people have neglected to take on data governance other than to check a box for an auditor and didn't realize that you need governed data in order for AI. And I've learned to be very clear when I'm talking about AI because it kind of breaks into three different areas. How do I use AI in order to more quickly govern my data? There are a lot of opportunities there.
Hmm.
Secondly, how do I govern my data that's being used by AI? And thirdly, how do I govern my AI so that it's the ethics sign off is in place and the risk factors are publicly available to anyone that's using that offering. And so those are the three primary areas when I'm talking about AI, and I've learned to be very specific about what I'm saying. And there is, with data governance, AI governance is to data governance what accounts payable is to accounting, right? So there's privacy, security, and classification, which is part of governance. and that would be accounts receivable. And then you've got accounts payable over here, AI governance. It's
Mm,
all part of data governance. You want it all fully integrated. AI has got some really unique challenges in that in some cases it's driving the organization into data governance. Like they're trying to do this with AI and therefore they need this. So they're telling the governance team, I'm using this piece of data. You need to get this piece of data governed, which means the governance team is now being driven from this, and I've got to go find an owner, steward, custodian, get them trained, get the definition in, data quality, and pull it in a very reactionary way
hmm.
for those organizations that didn't start already in their process. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that makes it very, very different.
Sure, and I appreciate you kind of going down that rabbit hole with me there because it's impossible for me to not bring up AI in some form or fashion in any of these podcasts
That's
now. Um,
true.
and it's, I mean, but it's so apt, and I agree with everything that you just mentioned there. Teresa, I only have one final question for you. You're doing so much for us here in the upcoming months. So can you take us through a
I'm
little
so
bit
excited
of?
about it.
Yeah, we are too. And can you maybe take us through a little bit of what you're going to be doing for us? Maybe starting with our live seminars coming up. We have Data Governance
Yeah.
Week, September 15th through the 19th. I know you're teaching a
Yes.
couple of those, right?
I love Data Governance Week because I have a lot of global companies that are in Australia, Cambodia, UK, and so they do call me and say, "I saw you on YouTube," and so this gives me the opportunity to get them involved in the training and be able to take that without having to travel over here. And so, because a lot of them can't do that. So I'm excited to have these online courses for TDWI because I think that they have a global audience
Mm,
and that's a good thing. It also is so reasonably priced that it makes data governance education accessible. And hats off to TDWI for that because I think a lot of it is so cost prohibitive and they tend to only send one or person per to the on-site conferences.
hmm.
So I am excited about the online classes. It's a little weird talking to my computer when I'm so used to engaging face to face. Like I
Sure.
said, I used to run open mics, so I had to get used to that as a speaker. The other thing that we're doing in November in Orlando is the Transforms conference. Did I
Hmm.
say that right? Is it
Yeah. Yeah.
Transforms? Okay.
TDWI Transform. I think it's Transform East
Transform
technically, but
25
yeah,
East.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
TDWI Transforms 25 East is in Orlando, and I am so looking forward to being able to connect with some of my customers, meet other data governance enthusiasts. I talk a lot with my peers, I love being able to sit down and debate different emerging practices and
Hmm.
what is best. And I get so much from being able to connect at those conferences that it's going to be exciting. And I do think that it's going to be great because TDWI is very meat and potatoes. It's not there to help you network. It's here to give you the skills and the practical application to be able to bring things back and know more when you left than when you got there. And I
That's right.
really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you so much. You did a great job of promoting both of those for me. So I'll let it just rest right there. I don't have anything else to add other than the fact that I will put more
Yeah.
information in all of the descriptions of these courses that you're going to be offering through TDWI in the description of this episode for folks. So there'll be links down below. You can click on those and find out more. Teresa, before I let you go, is there any particular way that folks might want to reach out after listening to this? If they can contact you with a question or follow up, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Sure. You can contact me at teresa.ancick, Ancick, at accurabusiness.com.
Perfect.
Or you can find me on LinkedIn, or I think I'm Diva of the Data on Instagram or something. I
Terrific.
don't know. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Teresa, again, thank you so much for your time today. It was a lot of fun talking with you, and hopefully
Thank you,
we'll
Andrew.
have
Thanks for
another time
having
to
me.
connect again in the
Awesome.
future. I'd love to have you back. So thanks again for your time, Teresa. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
To subscribe to the Speaking of Data podcast, or to learn more about TDWI's research and training on all things data management and analytics, visit tdwi.org or click the link in the description below. Thanks for tuning in.